Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Cookiecast. Today on Cookiecast, it's the Liante. She's back, bringing with her all the running news, games, TVs and movies, and I'm sure there's other bits, I'm sure. There's a video with this one, so jump over to YouTube, check the video out while you're there, subscribe, click for notifications, and share with your friends and family, because it's the right thing to do. So here we go. This is Cookiecast, up Liante.
Hello, podcast people. Right. So, let's get that rocking. Yes. Sound is working, video is on. So, you don't know this because it won't be captured, but this is take 2. I'd already just got things rolling, and I was just saying that I've done setup myself, so I was trying to see the reflection of the back of the camera, which has the screen on, to make sure I was in shot, and I was trying to look at it in the TV, the reflection of the TV. As I was doing that, thinking that we were rolling, just moved the microphone in, I then looked at the laptop screen and saw that there was no sound coming through, and I thought, oh no, what have I done wrong? And I realised that I hadn't actually plugged the microphone in, so that would cause an issue, but I'm glad that I noticed before I got to the end, and then we found that there was no sound, because that would have been more than unfortunate. It means I would have had to record it all over again. So, hello, welcome to Up Liante. We're on number 14, session 14 of the podcast. What's going on? Used to update on lockdown. I guess things within lockdown are sort of coming to a close. Things are gradually returning to normality. At this point in time, today they've just announced that face coverings will be mandatory in all shops in England. Makes sense, if you ask me, and probably, I guess, would we have done it if Scotland hadn't already implemented it and some shops were sort of locally enforcing it themselves? I don't know, it feels like a bit of an afterthought and should have probably been given consideration prior to now. I know that it was already required on public transport as well since beginning of June, maybe, so for the last month. And maybe people are considered to be in closer proximity on a bus or a train, and they're obviously in an enclosed space with the limitations on the circulation of air and things, as opposed to shops, which are generally considerably larger. But it sounds like a good move. The only issue I personally have with that is that my dad and I used to go do our shopping together. Prior to lockdown, obviously, we would go to Asda, do our shopping, talk and walk whilst we were en route. He's quite keen to get back to that, and I think we were planning to do so, not this weekend but next weekend. But I'm just not sure how feasible that's going to be when we're wearing masks, so I'm not sure. We might need to have a conversation, rethink that. He might be happy to continue and go ahead with that, but I guess we'll have to see. I'm not against it, but I just think it's harder to understand and hear somebody when they've got a face covering on. So maybe the supermarkets still aren't this place to be social, and it's literally about getting in and doing what you need to and getting out, and then we can still go and have our coffee like we used to and have a bit of a catch up. Anyway, that's where things are at in terms of lockdown. I think gyms and pools, outdoor pools are already open, but gyms and indoor pools are due to open from the 20th or 24th of July or something, so a couple of weeks away. And that might be sort of the last things on the list to reopen in terms of shops and entertainment sort of areas. I'm not sure what happened on cinemas and theatres. I know theatre bars were allowed to reopen a couple of weeks ago, but not the actual theatres themselves, so not sure where they're at or what they're planning to do in terms of getting those back open. I presume there'll be a limited capacity enforced and sort of every other seat almost, unless you're in a group of people, and there might even be limits on the size of the groups that can attend together. Guess we'll wait and see on that. Don't know why I'm babbling on about it when I don't know anything about it. So, bit of a weird week. It's been a busy week, but not doing things that I would normally talk about on the podcast. So, birthday activity for Cookie and my mum seemed to take over this week, and even once those days were finished and out the way, it's fair to say I've been exhausted, absolutely exhausted. I think aside from the days themselves, it was mentally draining, sort of preparing for 2 big birthdays back to back, and just sort of the preparations and planning that went in and around that. So I haven't played any game this week, so there's no Zelda to talk about. I haven't managed to fit in any films. I've watched a few TV shows, which I'll talk about briefly in a bit, but it just seems to have been a bit of a weird week. My evenings have come and gone. I've just wanted to sit and zone out, really, so I've let myself down, probably let you guys down. You know how it goes. I like to do that. I'm kind of disappointed that I haven't played game. There's a number of occasions when I've wanted to, but one of the things that always holds me back on playing my game is if it's been taken out of the Switch for some reason, swapped to a different game, that puts me off putting it back on. Because I will have got comfortable on the sofa and then I'll think, oh, I'll play a game. Then I'll remember the game's not in there and it's like, oh, I've got to get up. I actually have to stand up on my feet, walk over to the Switch and change games, and at that point it's like, nah, I'll just carry on watching something. So yeah, no films, no game this week. I have, however, been for 2 lots of running. So last week I talked about the fact that I'd been running with my friend Zoe. We did 4 miles a week last Saturday, and I was expecting to go out and do hill sprints last Wednesday morning, which we did. Cookie and I went. We went down to the hill that we use, and we did 10 hill sprints each. So one of us stayed at the bottom with the baby, and the other one would run up as fast as they could and then sort of run or jog back down, catching our breath. Then that person that's just done the sprint would stay with the baby, and the other one would then run up and run back. And we took that in turns until we'd each completed 10, and then we both did a final one up together because we needed to get back up the hill to return home. I think all in all, we walked there and did the running and then walked back, but it was about 2.5 miles in total. Don't know how long the actual sprints took or the distance covered, but yeah, it's sort of a semi-decent distance to add to the running list. The 25 miles I was trying to run throughout July, so I had a quick recap on that just now. So, well, hang on before I go into that. So we did the hill sprints. That wasn't as bad as I expected. I didn't think I'd be able to get through 10 sprints up a hill and back down, and admittedly at around 5 I was like, oh no, I don't think I will make it to the end, but we both did. It wasn't a major issue. A small breather in between obviously helped, just sort of chance to catch your breath before you go into it. And to be fair, my legs weren't even aching the next day, which I thought they might do, but it was perfectly manageable, and I think it's good. I don't know, it's almost like HIIT in a sense, because you're doing that short burst to get up the hill, and then you've got a chance to recover, and then you're doing another short burst to get back up the hill. So yeah, I guess it is high intensity interval training of a cardio aspect. Where was I going with that? So that was 2.5 miles. I'd done the run with Zoe the previous week, which was 4 miles, and then I've been back out with Zoe on Saturday just gone, and we did another 4. We did the same route, to be fair. So another 4 miles. So from my calculations, that knocks 10.5 miles off of the 25 miles I was aiming to run in July, and that's without even really trying. I had expected to get out in the week at another point, but I haven't got round to fitting those in just yet. They will be the next phase of improving the running, so I'll get those fitting. I'll probably do that in August or something and aim for 50 miles. So I'm hopeful, because it's the 14th of July today, so I've done 10.5. I need to get to 25. So obviously that's only another 14.5 miles that I need to cover in over 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks, so it should be doable. However, I need to be able to fit the runs in with Zoe to make it achievable. There may become a point, we've sort of been discussing that each week, arranging to go, saying there might be a point in time when one of us can't go on a weekend, so I'll have to see. If I'm not getting that 4 miles fit in, then that will become an issue in meeting the 25 miles. So I'll have to think about that and work out a plan of what's required. So I'm quite happy that I'm able to talk about running again, that I'm actually doing some. It might not be as much as I was, but it's certainly more than I was doing pre-lockdown, so I'm in a good place with it, and I'm expecting it to just ramp back up again. I think covering the 4 miles with Zoe, even though it's sort of stopping and starting, I think covering that longer distance helps me mentally feel like I can run more than when I just go out and sort of run a mile and think I'm done. So I'm hopeful that at the point in time that I do get back out and decide to run a mile or two, then I will feel that it's a little bit more comfortable. Whether that's true or not remains to be seen, so at the point in time that I try it, I'll be able to report back to you. The other small bit of exercise done this week is Cookie got an exercise sort of workout and eating plan from Buff Dudes. They're an American sort of duo that do a lot of exercise videos on YouTube, and they have their own eating and exercise plans that you can buy into. So he got an email from them on his birthday, wishing him a happy birthday. But one of the videos of theirs that he'd been watching had, they were doing a bit of a workout challenge to the Sally Up song. I've seen this. I've seen people sort of perform to this before, and it was a press-up challenge. So when it says Sally up, you push up, and then Sally down, you relax your arms, so you're in the lower position, but you've got to hold it at all times. So you're never actually releasing your arms from the sort of tension. I used to do it at the gym in a number of classes. I used to do it with squats, and used to do it on the spin bikes as well, sort of lower yourself into squat position whilst stood on the pedals of the bike. So the video Cookie had seen was the Buff Dudes, and I think they'd already done the squats. Can't remember if they did something else, and then there was a press-up challenge as well. So he's quite keen to try and practice and be able to do this press-up challenge to the Sally Up song. So he was watching it the other day, and whilst watching the video, I actually did the squat challenge to it. I managed to get through that just about. It was burning by the end, and it was a real struggle, but that's the other little snippet of exercise I've done this week, apart from my walking. There's been a few walks. Has there been a few walks? I'm saying that, but maybe there hasn't. I know we went out we went out on both Saturday and Sunday for walks. It's always the same loop, so it's sort of 3.5 miles. Didn't see my mum for a walk this week, and then I walked to the post office earlier today, and then did the same walk with my baby friends this afternoon. So three walks of at least 3.5 miles in there. I went to the post office. I had planned to walk into town to go pay some money into the bank, but I wasn't entirely sure that if I walked all the way into town that I would find that I could actually go and use the bank facilities. I don't know what. I know banks were always determined as sort of a necessary business to remain open, but I just didn't want to walk all that way and then find that I couldn't use the machines that I needed to for some reason. So Cookie suggested that I go to the post office because you can pay money into your current account there, and it's a much shorter walk. So I googled it and found that they were open and I could do that. So that's the reason I went down to the post office today. So that's exercise covered. Cookie and my mum's birthday, they both went really well. I was wrapping presents until quite late on Wednesday evening. And then Thursday was Cookie's birthday, so the big 4-0. We got up, we went into town first thing. I treated him to a coffee from Nero's. Anyone that listens to any of his podcasts knows that he's a big coffee lover, and Nero is his number one. So we realised that the Nero cafes were back open, so we took him in for a takeaway coffee. Baby had her first babychino, a little hot milk. We popped in to see Chris at Expressions. Shout out to Expressions. Popped in to see Chris, make a couple of purchases in there, one of them being this pillow as a bit of a reminder for the big 4-0 Pat Tillman jersey cushion, a bit of memorabilia. I'm not sure that's the right word for the reason I meant it. I meant as a memory for being 40, so he's got a number 40 cushion. We then called in to see cousin's little girl, who was 3, also on Cookie's birthday. Dropped off some presents and a balloon to them. And then we had a birthday tea in the afternoon. There was cake, ample amounts of cake, and a quietish evening. What happened? We had a call with the football group. We sung Happy Birthday to Cookie. And then he was able to open some of his remaining presents, and that was essentially the day gone. It flew by in an absolute whirlwind. We were non-stop, just moving from one thing to another, and always felt like we were in this sort of tight time frame. But I believe he had a good day. Plenty of things, plenty of presents and money to be given. So I'm hoping it was memorable. My mum's birthday was then on Friday. She was at work most of the day, so we had afternoon tea scheduled at my auntie's house as a surprise. So I went and took loads of stuff round there for mid-afternoon, and my mum called because it started raining, just asking if I could go pick her up. So I'd had the baby with me, so I left the baby my auntie's whilst I went to pick up my mum. My mum got in the car and she was sort of like, where is she? And I said, well, it was a Friday, and I was like, it's a nursery day. And Mum was like, oh right, yeah, of course. So we got back to my auntie's house, and there was a few people there. There was my auntie, my uncle, my other auntie, and then my cousin, and obviously the baby. So they all jumped out and was like surprised, and my mum was quite shocked actually. Obviously she knew where we were going, but didn't realise that everybody was going to be there, or as many people as we could have there. And there was cakes, sandwiches, egg sandwiches, jam sandwiches, cream cheese and cucumber, scones with jam and clotted cream, and then cakes. So it was very much afternoon tea, and I think she had a lovely afternoon, opened all her presents, and that was that. I was glad when we got to the end of Friday, to be honest, that both days were done. All that sort of angst that I was keeping in about having various surprises and things, and not knowing if the presents were all going to be what was wanted, and that kind of thing. I was just glad that the 2 days were over. It was just mentally exhausting. So I'm hoping that I don't have to go through that again for another 10 years now, sort of on their respective 50 and 70th birthdays. I can hear a noise. I keep thinking it's raining, and I know I've got washing on the line. I don't think it's raining. I think it's just the wind blowing the trees in the garden. Anyway, so that was the birthdays covered. What else have I done? TV I've been watching. Obviously I've been watching Are You the One? Finished another series of that. I think that was series 5, and it was actually the series where they didn't win the money. It was another series where if they blacked out on a week, their prize got halved, and that happened early on, week 3 or something, week 3 or 4. So they were down to winning 500,000. There was another sort of twist in the show that at each truth booth, when they find out if the couples are actually a perfect match, rather than those couples being able to find out the results of whether they're a match or not, rather than the whole house finding out those results, they had the opportunity to add money back to their pot, $150,000 a time. So yeah, a couple of different angles, but they walked away without the money at the end because they didn't manage to get all the perfect matches. I think they had 8 out of 11 matched, and the reason they failed this time is because so many of them had formed couples which then were proved not to be perfect match, but they weren't prepared to separate from that love interest in order to find another connection that was going to be the perfect match. So there was a number of couples that were incorrectly matched in terms of the sort of perfect status, that were too invested to then actually find their perfect match. So they had to rely solely on strategy in terms of who they were matching up and going through the calculations of who had sat with each other each week and how many light beams they'd had to go on. So rather than actually connecting on a personal level, they were relying on the strategy, and there was just a number of options for this last 3 couple as to who could be whose match, and they didn't manage to nail it, unfortunately. It's kind of sad actually when you see them having gone through, I think it's filmed over a 6-week period, so they've been 6 weeks away from friends and family looking for true love, and half of them left without love or money. So that's that. I then actually started watching 2 new shows. So my upstairs TV time, I've been watching Unsolved Mysteries, which is sort of sudden disappearances of people, unexplained, sort of almost in the moment. They've gone missing, or they later turn up to have been murdered, but the truth around the situation has never been found or revealed. It's quite interesting actually, and the last one that I've just watched is actually quite relevant in terms of what's going on at the moment with Black Lives Matter and racism and stuff, because it was about a young black boy from Kansas, had gone with his group of white friends to a party in a rural part of Kansas. Seemingly got into a bit of an altercation whilst at this party, but the party continued, nobody left. The black boy's friends all ended up leaving at separate points in time, and I think he was over an hour away from his home, so all his friends had ended up leaving, and they all sort of thought somebody else was getting him back home, and he was the only black person at this party, and he never returned home. He was found sort of to be missing the next day, and I think it took almost 2 weeks for a body to be found nearby, and nobody knows the truth behind what actually happened there, but I think the way in which his body was found, his items of clothing were sort of strewn, not in close proximity to his body, sort of further down a main road, like shoes were thrown in different directions. One was found on one side of the road, one was further down, sorry, not the microphone, on the other side of the road, and his injuries, it was all very suspicious that he'd essentially been beaten to death, and it's assumed that that was racially motivated. Just incredibly sad and horrible. There was a bit, his mother was talking, saying that she still doesn't trust people to this day, and yeah, if it happened to anybody it'd be incredibly sad, but for it to be, if it was because of the colour of his skin, which is sort of the theme throughout that episode, there's just no excuse for it. Completely unnecessary. So yeah, an incredibly sad story there. They were all sad. I've watched 3. I think the not knowing, it just must eat away at you forever. You just don't know the circumstances of how they came to meet their untimely death. And I think, from my point of view, you just always wonder were they in pain, sort of like what thoughts were going through their mind in their final moments. It would destroy me if that happened to anybody that I know. It would just absolutely eat me up inside, the feeling of thinking, the pain, the fear, what they were feeling. Can't dwell on that because I've not had to go through it, but yeah, not pleasant. I don't know why I watch these programs, because they really get me. The other show I've started watching is The Reckoning, which is also on Netflix. That, when I read the blurb, I was flicking through a few different things just looking for something to watch, and when I read the blurb on that, it was saying there'd been a serial killer in a town, and I think there hadn't been any murders in 5 years, but now these other murders are starting to crop up and they think this serial killer might be back. And I just read that and it just sort of jumped out at me, and it was the sort of thing I would watch and enjoy. So I've watched 2 episodes of that. It's got I think he's called Sam Trammell, and the only thing that I knew him from, I recognise him straight away, but the only thing I know that he has been in was True Blood, and he was the shapeshifter guy that owned the pub in the show. So he's in it, and a bit of a spoiler, I guess, although we don't know this, but it appears to me that he is the guy that could potentially be the serial killer. He's a teacher at the local school, and yeah, just sort of he seems to have a lot of weird thoughts and encounters, which is currently leading me to think that he is the murderer, but I don't know whether there's going to be a twist and it's not him or what. So it's focused on him and his family. So he's got a wife and a son from a previous marriage that has just recently come to live with him, and then the other key family is like the lead detective at the police station that's put on the job. He seems to have invested a lot of time investigating the serial killer from the last time that he was active. I don't know what it did to his mental health at that time. It seems to be suggesting that it wasn't good, but he is currently back on the case for these new deaths that are cropping up, and it focuses on him and his wife and their 3 children. That's it at the moment, really. That's as far as it's got. So there's been 1 death, and the story sort of just unfolding at the moment. It's good though. I'm quite enjoying it, so I'll see where that progresses to. Is that all I've been watching? I think it is, to be honest. The other thing I've been doing actually is just playing a few games on the Kindle when I've not wanted to be watching stuff. I've been playing one type of puzzle game. I don't know what you call them, but you get... I used to play this sort of like on a paper and pen version. You get a grid and then you get some statements, and essentially you need to match up the contents of these statements and put crosses in boxes within your grid. So the one I was doing, it was to do with the drivers of trains, where the trains were leaving a station. something like that. And these statements all say the driver of the train that left Birmingham is not called Graham. So you'd find, on your grid, you'd find Graham, and the train that left Birmingham, and there'd be a cross, so you know that's not him. And essentially you're trying to reveal the name of the driver that did leave Birmingham, and at what time or something. You usually have 3 pieces of information you're trying to match up. So you usually get 4 or 5 statements, and you sort of have to unpick the information that those statements are telling you, because it's not always obvious. It can be sort of hidden underlying. So no idea what you call those types of puzzles, but I've been enjoying playing those, and it's on the Kindle, so it's all electronic. So rather than it being like you're having to use your pen to put a cross in a box, I just tap it and it automatically does it. So if you get something wrong, it's easy to unravel without your grid being messed up with pen marks and stuff. Least of your worries when you're playing a game like that, really. But yeah, it's moved with the times. The other game that I've been playing was Angry Birds. It seems that the version I've got on my Kindle isn't supported any longer, or it's not free. So I've just been playing on practice mode, but just trying to get it so that I got the highest score on each one and unlocked the highest achievement on each level. It just passes the time sometimes when you don't want to be focused on something, or if you're really tired like I usually am. It stops me from just getting into bed and going straight to sleep. It's a little bit of something to do. So I think that is it, really. I don't actually have anything else on my list. Oh, weight. I should check in on my weight. So I was worried about where my weight was going to end up after the birthdays weekend. A lot of cake was consumed. Cookie had 3 cakes that we needed to work our way through, and they went well into the weekend. But we managed to clear them out before Sunday, so that we could start afresh yesterday on a sort of cleaner eating diet. And when I weighed myself yesterday morning, I was actually incredibly surprised at where I was compared to last week, because I was only at 14 stone 3.8. So I'm not sure if that's only half a pound that I put on. I don't know how that happened, because there were points prior to yesterday that I weighed myself and I was sort of 14.6, so I don't know how I managed to get it back down. I suppose the running on Saturday will have helped, but yeah, I don't know, something's a little bit off. I'm incredibly lucky, I think, so we'll see how this week progresses. I don't know if I'm still sort of waiting for the weight to hit me or something. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, I'm quite happy. I've seen so many things, it's not like I didn't know this before, but I've seen so many things in the last few days about stop focusing on what the scales say, and you should judge your weight loss journey by how you feel within your clothes. And I know the reason for that, and I know that muscle is heavier than fat, but sort of takes up less space, so weight judgment on its own is not always the best. But I just need that. I need that check-in to keep me accountable on the scales, and it's maybe not necessarily always telling you the right story. I've always been told that you sort of take photos of yourself in your underwear to be able to measure weight loss and progress, but I know it takes a long time to do that, and if you say you take your photos 2 weeks apart, that could be 2 weeks that you're completely off the rails. So I don't. Obviously, you would know if you'd been off the rails, and you hold yourself accountable to your eating and your exercise to make sure that you're not. But I guess I don't have that. What's the word? Discipline, or I don't feel like I do to be able to have that. It's one to think about. I don't know. I'm not doing enough exercise to be worried about the sort of the muscle weight at the moment, so I don't think it's an issue for me, but maybe further down the line we'll see. Anyway, right, I'm going to wrap it up there. So next week I'll be able to check in. I should have been running again, so I'll let you know how many miles I'm up to by that point and how far we are into July. I've got I'm due to see my dad on Thursday. Due to be playing Cards Against Humanity on Saturday night. Got a call with friends tomorrow night. So there's a few things to be checking in on, as well as the usual stuff. I think we're doing hill sprints again in the morning. So yeah, there's plenty going on. I will endeavour to have watched a film before next week and played Zelda, for those of you that are even remotely interested in my progress on that. Okay guys, until then I will say cheerio, have a good week, and thanks for watching Liante. Bye bye.
There you go, what do you think of that? Another one done, another one gone. Yeah. YouTube watchers, do subscribe, it helps the channel, and you become a member of the family now. How about that? Everybody jump over to cookiecast.com, check us out over there, send us social media love, email love, love of any kind. Yeah. So there we go, that's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then. Bye.